The sound of his boot connecting with my ribs echoed through the living room like thunder, and 20 guests stopped laughing to watch me crawl across the floor. But what they didn't know was that I had been planning this moment for 3 months. My name is Grace, and I thought I married my prince. Victor seemed perfect when we met 5 years ago at the market. Tall, handsome, with sweet words that made my heart dance. He owned a small phone repair shop, and I had my own little restaurant that was doing well. "Baby, let's combine our money," he said after our wedding. "We can build something big together." I trusted him completely. So I said yes. Within 6 months, my restaurant was gone. Victor said we needed the money for investments. His shop grew bigger, but my name never appeared on any papers. When I asked questions, Victor would pat my head like I was a child. "Don't worry about business, Grace. That's man's work." Then the parties started. Every weekend, Victor invited his friends over. Rich men with loud voices who treated our house like their playground. I became their maid. "Grace, bring more drinks. Grace, clean this mess." His friends laughed when Victor ordered me around. I felt my soul getting smaller each day, but I stayed quiet. I thought love meant sacrifice. 3 months ago, everything changed. While cleaning Victor's office, I found a hidden folder. Bank statements, property papers, contracts. Everything I thought we owned together was in his name only. Worse, he had taken loans using my old restaurant as security without telling me. But the worst part was printed text messages between Victor and his friend James. The fool gave me everything. Now I just keep her around to clean and cook. When I get bored, I'll throw her out with nothing. That night, I didn't cry. I made a plan. I started collecting evidence. Photos of documents. Recordings of conversations. I discovered Victor had forged my signature on several papers. Most importantly, I learned that legally, I still owned half of everything because of our marriage certificate. I also met Zuri. She worked at Victor's bank and had been dating my husband for 8 months. Yes, my married husband had a girlfriend who didn't know he was married. Instead of hating her, I showed her the truth. "He told me he was single," she cried when I showed her our wedding photos. "He's been stealing from both of us," I said gently. Zuri was angry. Very angry. She worked in the loan department and had access to information that could help us. "What do you want to do?" she asked. "I want justice," I said. We spent weeks planning. The plan was simple but deadly. We would wait for the right moment, then strike fast. That moment came last Saturday. Victor was throwing his biggest party yet. 50 people in our house. He wanted to show off how successful he was. I played my role perfectly. Served drinks, cleaned spills, smiled at their jokes. But inside, I was watching the clock. At exactly 9 p.m., Victor called me. "Grace, come clean up this mess James made." I walked over slowly. James had spilled wine on the white carpet on purpose, grinning like it was funny. "Your wife is so obedient," James said to Victor. "How did you train her so well?" Victor laughed. "It's easy when they're not too bright. She gave me everything she owned and now she works for free. Best deal I ever made." The room erupted in laughter. I knelt down and started cleaning the stain. This was the moment I had been waiting for. "You know what?" Victor said loudly. "I think my wife needs to remember her place." That's when he kicked me. His boot hit my ribs and I fell to the side. The room went quiet. Victor stood over me like a king. "Clean it properly this time," he said. I looked up at him from the floor. Our eyes met. And I smiled. That smile confused him. He expected tears, begging, fear. Instead, I smiled like I knew something he didn't. Because I did. I stood up slowly, brushing dust off my dress. Then I walked to the front door and opened it wide. "Officers, please come in," I said. 3 police officers walked into our living room. Behind them came my lawyer, Mr. Ben, carrying a briefcase full of papers. The room exploded into chaos. People started asking questions, trying to leave. Victor's face went white. "Grace, what is this? What did you do?" I didn't answer him. Instead, I turned to our guests. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here tonight. You are witnesses to something very important." Mr. Ben stepped forward. "Mr. Victor Johnson, you are being served with divorce papers. Also, charges are being filed against you for fraud, forgery, and theft." Victor tried to run toward me, but the officer stopped him. "You can't do this," he screamed. "This is my house. My business." I pulled out a folder from behind the couch where I had hidden it. "Actually, Victor, this house is half mine. The business is half mine. And these bank accounts? Half mine." I handed papers to Mr. Ben, who began reading them out loud. "Furthermore, I have evidence that you forged my signature on multiple documents. You also used my property as security without my permission. Both are crimes." Victor's friends started backing away. James headed for the door. "Wait," I said to James. "Officer, this man knew about the fraud. I have recordings." James froze. The officer walked over to him. I pulled out my phone and played a recording. Victor's voice filled the room. "The fool gave me everything. Now I just keep her around to clean and cook. When I get bored, I'll throw her out with nothing." The room was dead silent. Everyone could hear Victor's laughter and James agreeing with him. "For 3 months, I collected evidence," I continued. "Bank records showing hidden money. Forged documents. Text messages planning crimes. Photos of your girlfriend." "At girlfriend?" everyone gasped. Victor's mother stood up with her mouth open. "Girlfriend," she said. "Victor, what is she talking about?" That's when Zuri walked through the front door. She was dressed beautifully, carrying flowers and looking confused. "Victor, darling, I brought the wine you asked for. Why are there police here?" Victor looked like he wanted to disappear. "Zuri," I said gently, "meet Victor's wife. That would be me." Zuri dropped the flowers. The room was silent. "Wife," she whispered. "But Victor, you said you were single." She looked around at the family photos on the walls, at the woman's clothes visible through the bedroom door, at me standing in what was clearly my home. "Oh my God," she said. "He lied to me too." "You made me steal information from the bank," Zuri said to Victor. "You said it was for business loans. You said we were getting married." She turned to the police. "I work at First National Bank. This man convinced me to access private information illegally. He said it was his money, but he was lying." The officer took out handcuffs. "Officer, there's more," I said. "Victor owes money to dangerous people. I have a list of names and amounts." I handed over another folder. These men lent money to Victor. But he spent it on parties and his girlfriend. He hasn't paid them back. Some have been making threats. Victor's face went completely white. "Grace, please," he said. "We can work this out. I love you. I made mistakes. I looked at this man who had made me feel worthless, who had stolen my dreams and laughed about it. Victor," I said quietly, "you made one big mistake." "What?" he whispered. "You forgot that the woman who built a successful restaurant from nothing might be smarter than you thought." The officers moved toward Victor, but he held up his hands. "Wait. Grace, if you do this, you'll lose everything too. The house, the business will be sold to pay my debts. You'll have nothing." I smiled again. That same knowing smile. "Victor, did you think I would plan this for 3 months without thinking about that?" I pulled out final papers. "Mr. Ben, please explain what these are." My lawyer cleared his throat. "These are separation of assets papers, filed 3 days ago. Mrs. Johnson has legally separated her portion of all property from her husband's debts. She has proof that business assets were bought with money from her restaurant, making them legally hers. He continued. Furthermore, Mrs. Johnson was not a willing participant in her husband's dealings and was a victim of fraud. Therefore, she's not responsible for his debts. Victor stared at me like he was seeing me for the first time. That's impossible. You're just you don't know how to. I don't know how to what, Victor? Run a business? I built a restaurant from nothing. Handle money? I saved every penny while you spent everything. Plan ahead? I've been planning since I found your files. The police moved toward Victor. This time he didn't resist. As they put handcuffs on him, he looked at me one more time. I gave you everything, he said. No, Victor. I gave you everything. And now I'm taking it back. The officers led him away. His friends followed quickly. Soon, only family and neighbors remained. Victor's mother walked over to me. Grace, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I know, Mama Rose. Victor is your son, and you love him. But love doesn't mean accepting wrong behavior. She nodded sadly and left. Soon, only Zuri, Mr. Ben, and I remained. What happens now? Zuri asked. Now we heal, I said. You were a victim too, Zuri. Will you press charges against me? Did you know he was married when you helped him? No. I swear I didn't. Then you were manipulated like me. But tell your bank what happened. It's better if they hear it from you first. She nodded. What about you? I looked around the house. My house. For the first time in years, it felt like home. I'm going to rebuild. My restaurant, my life, my dreams. Everything Victor tried to destroy. Mr. Ben packed his papers. Grace, the legal process will take months, but based on your evidence, this should go smoothly. Victor will likely go to prison, and you'll get everything that's legally yours. After they left, I sat alone in my living room. The same room where I had been humiliated hours before was now quiet and peaceful. I thought about the past 5 years. All the times I felt small, stupid, worthless. All the dreams I had given up. But I also thought about the past 3 months. How I found my strength again. How I made a plan and followed through. How I turned my pain into power. The doorbell rang. My neighbor, Mrs. Janet, stood there. Grace, child, are you all right? I'm fine, Mrs. Janet. Better than fine. What will you do now? I smiled. A real smile this time. I'm going to live, Mrs. Janet. Really live. That night, I slept better than I had in 5 years. No more pretending. No more being small. But this was just the beginning. Victor might be gone, but there was still work to do. I had a business to rebuild, a life to reclaim. As I drifted off to sleep, I remembered my grandmother's words. A woman's strength is like a river. It can be dammed up for a while, but eventually, it will find a way to flow. Tonight, my river had broken through the dam. 2 weeks after Victor's arrest, I woke up to find my front door covered in red paint. The message was clear. Victor's enemies had found me. I called the police immediately. Officer Adams, who had arrested Victor, came to investigate. Mrs. Johnson, we think this is connected to the money your husband owes to some dangerous people, he said. We found a list of names in his phone. These men don't play games. My heart sank. What does this mean for me? It means you need to be very careful. These people don't care that you divorced him. They just want their money. That afternoon, my lawyer Mr. Ben called with more bad news. Grace, Victor's creditors are trying to claim everything, including the house. They say since you were married when the debts were made, you're responsible too. But you said I was protected. I said we would fight it. But it's going to be harder than we thought. Some of these debts were made using forged documents with your signature. Proving fraud takes time. I felt my world crashing down again. Just when I thought I was free, Victor's mess was pulling me back under. That evening, Zuri came to visit. She looked worried. Grace, something happened at the bank today. 3 men came asking about Victor's accounts. They knew things they shouldn't know. Personal things. What kind of things? They knew about you. They knew your name, where you live, what car you drive. Grace, I'm scared. So was I. But I had learned something important over the past few months. Fear could make you stronger if you used it right. Zuri, did you tell your bank about helping Victor? She nodded. They suspended me pending investigation. But Grace, that's not the worst part. I found out Victor owes money to Big Tony. My blood went cold. Everyone in Lagos knew about Big Tony. He was a loan shark who had connections everywhere. People who couldn't pay him back sometimes disappeared. How much does he owe? 5 million naira. I sat down hard. 5 million naira was more money than I had ever seen in my life. Zuri, we need to be smart about this. These men are dangerous, but they're also businessmen. They want their money, not trouble. What are you thinking? I'm thinking we need to meet with them. Face to face. Zuri's eyes went wide. Are you crazy? We can't meet with Big Tony. We can't hide from him either. If we're going to solve this, we need to understand exactly what we're dealing with. The next day, I did something that scared me more than anything I had ever done. I called Big Tony's office and asked for a meeting. His secretary was surprised. You want to meet with Mr. Tony? About what? My husband Victor Johnson owes him money. I want to discuss payment. There was silence. Then, be at the Golden Hotel restaurant tomorrow at 2 p.m. Come alone. I didn't come alone. I brought Mr. Ben and made sure Officer Adams knew where I was going. Big Tony was not what I expected. He was a small, quiet man in an expensive suit. But his eyes were cold, and the 2 men standing behind him looked like they could break me in half. Mrs. Johnson, he said politely, please sit. I sat down, trying not to show how nervous I was. Your husband owes me 5 million naira, he said simply. Plus interest. Total amount is now 7 million. Mr. Tony, I divorced my husband. I'm not responsible for his debts. He smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. Mrs. Johnson, when I lent money to Victor, he used your restaurant as security. That makes you responsible. He forged my signature on those papers. Maybe. But until a court says so, I consider the debt valid. My lawyer leaned forward. Sir, we have proof of forgery. We can show you. Big Tony held up his hand. I don't care about proof. I care about money. He looked at me directly. Mrs. Johnson, I like you. You have courage coming here. So I will make you a deal. What kind of deal? You have 1 month to pay me 4 million naira. I will forget the other 3 million and the interest. 4 million naira was still impossible. But it was better than 7 million. And if I can't pay? His smile disappeared. Then we will take everything you own. Your house, your car, your business assets. Everything. That's not legal. Mrs. Johnson, I don't work with legal. I work with effective. I looked at this man who held my future in his hands. Then I did something that surprised everyone, including myself. I smiled. Mr. Tony, I have a counteroffer. He raised an eyebrow. You want to negotiate with me? I want to propose a business arrangement. Now he looked interested. Go on. You want 4 million naira. I don't have 4 million naira. But I have something better. What's that? Information. I pulled out a folder from my bag. Victor didn't just owe money to you. He owes money to 5 other people. Big money. And he's been playing all of you against each other. Big Tony's eyes narrowed. Explain. Victor borrowed money from you using my restaurant as security. Then he borrowed money from Mr. Emeka using the same restaurant as security. Then he did it again with 3 other people. I opened the folder and showed him documents. The same property was used as security for 6 different loans totaling 20 million naira. Big Tony studied the papers. His face grew darker. This means, I continued, that Victor committed fraud against all of you. You're not just his victims. You're all victims of the same scam. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we work together. Instead of fighting each other for pieces of Victor's assets, we combine forces and go after the real money. What real money? I pulled out more papers. Victor has been hiding money in offshore accounts. Money he stole from all of us. Money he thinks no one can find. Big Tony looked at the documents carefully. How did you get this information? I was married to him for 5 years. I know how he thinks. And I had help from someone inside his bank. He glanced at my lawyer. Is this legal? Mr. Ben nodded. If we can prove Victor used fraud to obtain these loans, we can freeze his hidden assets and recover the money legally. Big Tony sat back in his chair. You want me to work with the law? I want you to get your money back, I said. All of it. Not just 4 million. Not just 7 million. All 20 million that Victor stole from you and the others. There was a long silence. Finally, Big Tony smiled. This time, it was a real smile. Mrs. Johnson, I underestimated you. You're not just Victor's victim. You're a fighter. Does that mean you'll work with us? It means I'll give you 2 months instead of 1. Find Victor's hidden money, and we'll split it fairly among everyone he cheated. And if we can't find it? His smile faded. Then we go back to the original deal. 4 million naira or you lose everything. We shook hands. As I left the restaurant, I felt like I had just made a deal with the devil. But sometimes, you have to work with devils to catch demons. Over the next 6 weeks, Zuri, Mr. Ben, and I worked like detectives. We traced Victor's financial records, followed money trails, and slowly uncovered the truth. Victor had been running a sophisticated scam for 2 years. He would borrow money from one person, use part of it to pay back another person, and hide the rest in secret accounts. He kept everyone happy just long enough to borrow more money. But his biggest mistake was keeping records of everything. He was so proud of his cleverness that he documented his crimes. We found bank accounts in 3 different countries. We found property bought under fake names. We found investments made with stolen money. Most importantly, we found Victor's insurance policy. A recording device hidden in his office where he had recorded every conversation with his victims. He planned to use the recordings for blackmail if anyone tried to expose him. Instead, the recordings became evidence of his crimes. 6 weeks after my meeting with Big Tony, we had another meeting. This time, all of Victor's victims were there. Big Tony, Mr. Emeka, Mrs. Sarah, and 3 other people who had been cheated. Mr. Ben presented our findings. Ladies and gentlemen, we have located assets worth 32 million naira that were purchased with money stolen from all of you. The room buzzed with excitement. Furthermore, he continued, we have evidence that Mr. Victor Johnson committed fraud against each of you. This evidence will be presented to the court tomorrow. Big Tony looked at me with respect. Mrs. Johnson, you kept your word. The money will be returned to everyone based on how much they were cheated, I said. After legal fees and court costs, everyone should get back about 90% of what they lost. Mrs. Sarah, an elderly woman who had lost her life savings, started crying. I thought I would never see that money again. There's one more thing, I said. Victor also had life insurance policies and pension funds that he hid from everyone, including me. That money legally belongs to his wife. You're his wife, Mr. Emeka pointed out. Not anymore. Our divorce was finalized yesterday. I pulled out the divorce papers. But according to these documents, I'm entitled to half of all assets acquired during our marriage, including the hidden money. Big Tony laughed. So you get your revenge and your money back. I get justice, I corrected. There's a difference. 3 months later, I stood in front of a new restaurant. Bigger than my first one, in a better location, with my name on the sign, Grace's Kitchen. Zuri walked up beside me. She had been cleared of all charges and was now working as my business manager. Are you ready? She asked. I've been ready for 5 years, I said. We opened the doors. Customers began flowing in. The smell of good food filled the air. The sound of laughter replaced the sound of Victor's cruel jokes. That evening, as I locked up my restaurant, I thought about the journey that had brought me here. From the woman crawling on the floor in front of laughing guests to the woman who owned her own business again. Victor was in prison serving a 10-year sentence for fraud and forgery. His friends, including James, were facing their own legal troubles. Big Tony had gotten his money back and had offered to invest in my restaurant. I had politely declined. I walked to my car, a new car, bought with my own money, and drove to my house. My house, with my name on the deed. As I sat in my living room, the same room where Victor had kicked me 6 months ago, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. My phone rang. It was Mrs. Janet, my neighbor. Grace, I saw the news about your restaurant opening. I'm so proud of you. Thank you, Mrs. Janet. You know, I always knew you were strong. Even when you were quiet, I could see the fire in your eyes. After she hung up, I thought about her words. The fire had always been there. Victor hadn't killed it. He had just covered it up for a while. I walked to my bedroom and looked at myself in the mirror. The woman looking back at me was different from the one who had been kicked 6 months ago. This woman stood taller. This woman smiled with confidence. This woman knew her worth. I thought about all the women who were still living my old life. Women who thought they were trapped. Women who believed they were powerless. Women who had forgotten their own strength. Tomorrow I would start something new. Not just a restaurant, but a support group for women escaping abusive relationships. I would teach them what I had learned, that silence could be power, that planning was better than anger, and that the best revenge was living well. I turned off the lights and went to bed. Tomorrow was a new day, and I had work to do. But tonight, I would sleep peacefully in my own bed, in my own house, as a free woman. Victor had tried to destroy me. Instead, he had taught me how strong I really was. Sometimes the best revenge isn't what you do to someone else. Sometimes the best revenge is what you do for yourself. And I had given myself everything. My dignity, my freedom, and my future. That was a victory no one could ever take away from me.